Good morning. I was just sitting here praying and I decided that today is a day of testimony. And I just wanted to share a little bit more of my story and how I came to be where I am today, walking with the Lord the way that I am. Any of you who've been watching my videos for a while knows that I used to be in a very abusive relationship and marriage. And even trying to walk with the Lord and be a believer, I would pray all the time for the Lord to change my husband and change my marriage. And when my husband finally came to have an affair, I was so angry with God because he wasn't, in my mind, he wasn't answering my prayer. He was abandoning me. And instead of things getting better, they seem to have just gotten worse. Instead of my marriage getting better, my husband has just completed 8 or 9 month long affair with a younger woman. And I actually fell away from God after that for about 8 years. I fell away from God for 8 years. 6 years after that, I left my husband. In my mind at that time I was leaving him for another man. I was angry, I was cold, I was very cold, and I was done. And I left him, which began my journey of singlehood and dating, basically. A couple years later, I ended up falling madly in love with another man. And to be honest with you, I'd never felt love like that before for a man. It was the most intense feeling I'd ever experienced. But after I was with him, I realized I didn't trust him, and he didn't make me feel safe. And so I was never okay, because the last thing I wanted was a repeat, of my first marriage. So we ended up breaking up, and I have never felt such pain, like my heart is going to die in my chest. Pain that I thought might kill me. I would literally wake up out of my sleep crying. And my whole body would react to the emotional pain. I ended up moving in with a girlfriend to get away from the whole situation and to be closer to my teenage boys. And one day while I was driving in my car, I cried out to God. For the first time in 8 years. Broken and with absolutely nothing left. I had absolutely nothing left. I didn't have a home of my own. I still had a relationship with my children, but obviously I no longer lived with them. I just felt absolutely empty and broken and alone. And as I was sitting here this morning, reading my Bible. I was reading about the called ones. And something that I have realized and known is that God never left me. He always had his eye on me. Like a shepherd on the hill, he knows where his sheep are. But when I was very young, teenage girl, was the first time I walked away from God, because I decided if he wasn't going to give me what I wanted, then I would do things my way. And my way led me into a lot of darkness for a long time. God lets us pick our way if that's what we choose. But it will bring you a life of pain. You know, and some people have chosen God's way and have still had to walk through pain. And that's okay. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Because the other thing that I realized in being one of God's chosen, one that he's looked after, despite your own decisions, until you come to a place where you have nothing left. And you're so broken that you finally tell him, I have nothing left. I need you. I need you. And do you know what? Ever since that day, which has been 4 years ago now, I have never been able to let go of that feeling. And it is an incredible blessing of strength that he has given me to walk through this very dark hour of life. Because I know that even if I have nothing left, I have him. And as long as I have him, I'm okay. It's an incredible gift of strength to say, I don't care if I have nothing left, because I've got you. I've got you, and I know you're not going anywhere. The Lord has revealed to me the ways that he's looked over me through my life when I cried out to him. When I was pregnant with my second son, I didn't walk in the knowledge that I have now. But the Lord meets us where we are, and he works with us where we are. And I prayed for a birth like Mary. I don't know where the thought came from, but I got this idea in my head that I bet you Mary did not give birth to Yeshua in pain. But God's grace was on her. And I prayed for a birth like Mary the whole pregnancy. And I did things I'd never done before. I exercised a lot, and I did some maternity stretching, and I would do like relaxation things where I would just put on relaxing music and just sit and let myself go into my imagination. I made up this beautiful place. It was a kind of a green pool of water with a waterfall running down to it, and all around it was forest. And I was swimming down in the water, like as if I didn't need oxygen. And it was just this place that I went to. And I later learned that some of the things I was doing might not have been of God. But regardless, when it came time to have my son, when I went to my doctor's appointment, I was told that I was 5 centimeters dilated. And this was to my shock, because I hadn't had a contraction. For those of you who don't know, you have to have contractions to begin dilating, which means that you're beginning to open up so that the baby can pass through. And when you get to 10, I believe it's 10 or 9, you're fully dilated and ready to give birth. So she tells me I'm 5 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, how is that possible? I haven't had any contractions. And she's like, well, you are. So she said to go for a walk, so I did. I walked that afternoon, and I began to feel some pressure, but still no contractions. And that night I woke up, and I kept needing to go to the bathroom. And it was keeping me awake. It was kind of like annoying. And finally, I woke up my then husband and said, I'm not sure what's going on here, but could you time these just in case? Like every time I'm needing to go to the bathroom, just time it. And so he did. And then he said, if these are contractions, we need to get you to the hospital immediately. Because they were literally like, I want to say a minute apart. It was like something crazy. Like, you're supposed to get to the hospital when they're 5 minutes apart. And mine were like 1 or 2 minutes apart. So we get in the car and we go to the hospital. And I told the nurses, I'm in labor. The baby is coming. And so they rushed me to a room and got me on the table. And they checked, and they said the baby's head was crowning. And they frantically started begging me not to push, which for women who have had babies, it's not really in your control. As you know, you don't just get to hold it, like when you need to pee and wait, like this is not something you're in control of. Like, your body is having a baby, whether you like it or not. So, anyways, they rushed the ER, the on-call surgeon, and they literally barely slipped the gown over the front of him and had his gloves on before my water burst and my son came out. And literally my labor time in full, I would say like from the time I left the house until the time I laid down was probably 30 minutes. And that 30 minutes was the only part of the entire thing that I had any kind of discomfort or pain. 30 minutes was it, and it was over. And I have always known that was Yah who answered me and gave me a birth at least similar to Mary. And with that being said, I have had this peace and knowing that if I were even to face death for Yah, because I'm not willing to bow to what I know is not of him. And trust me, I've decided that I will not bow. Everything he's shown me and revealed me was for his good purpose, his good will, and I will not bow. And just like he answered me with my birth, I know that just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were thrown into the fire, and the king said, "There is another in the fire who looks like the Son, a Son of God." If I am faced with death, and I believe this for us all, if we are faced with death because we are standing for Yah, he will be with us. I believe that whatever we face in death, we will see him. His Spirit is going to rest upon us with peace. There will be no fear. And I believe we will see him with our eyes, because he's going to be right there with us, saying, "Come on home. Don't fear. Today you're going to be with me." So I just wanted to share that with you guys so that you can take that ahead with you. Think of ways that you know that he's been with you and answered your prayers in your lifetime. And just remember that just because you go through dark things in life doesn't mean that he abandoned you. Dark things are going to come in this life, period. But so is light. And we are that light. I think that's all I needed to say. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. Love you guys. Bye.